So you want to know how to get to the moon. I mean the mun. We've begun already. Okay, so I am in a spacecraft called the Minmus V. Except it's not going to Minmus, it will be going to the moon today. So as soon as you're ready, throttle up, press T to engage your SAS. I'm assuming for this tutorial you have been into low Kerbal orbit a substantial amount of times, but you just can't get to the moon. Just can't get there. This tutorial will fix that for you. So as soon as we hit around 200, this aircraft's quite heavy. Not aircraft. This spacecraft is quite heavy, so we begin the gravity turn quite late once we've got a bit more velocity. You want to kind of move over to the right with your A key, and as soon as your prograde, which is the big kind of yellow thing, yellow marker, as soon as your prograde catches up with that, you want to turn on your SAS and hit prograde on the left. So I'll just leave you with the cinematic of getting into orbit. Pretty standard stuff. Now, as soon as your apoapsis reaches around 110, just to not waste too much fuel, you want to click on your apoapsis, click Add Maneuver, and then drag out your prograde marker until you get a nice stable orbit. Now, you'll see both of your periapsis and apoapsis swap places. You want them to kind of be in the middle of each other. So sometimes your orbit can be a little bit off, so you might want to drag the centre of the manoeuvre node back and forth, move it towards the heavier side just so it gets a little bit more equal, as I've done there. Now, I've started burning a little bit late. You want to take how long your burn time is in the bottom right of your nav ball, divide that by 2, and then that's the amount of time that you want to start burning before your move node. So here, mine is around 2 minutes, so I start burning a minute before. I have started burning about 10 seconds late, but that's okay, it just means the orbit's going to be a little bit off. As soon as you have your nice equatorial orbit that you've had from the manoeuvre node, you want to zoom out until you see the moon and click on it and set it as a target. Now, the moon's orbit will turn bright green, don't worry about that, that's fine. And if the moon is, you want to kind of face 90 degrees away in front of the moon's orbit. And then what I've done here is put a manoeuvre node on my orbit on the back of the Earth, and then dragged it out until you get that the purple orbit, which should show your manoeuvre. So if you don't get that, you want to keep dragging the centre of your manoeuvre node around until that purple does appear, and then just adjust it with the prograde and retrograde markers until you get that periapsis nice and close to the moon. I did have to fiddle around with it for a bit, just until that periapsis came really close. You want it to get, because the moon has no atmosphere, you won't start re-entering, so get it as close as you can to that rendezvous. Now that you've got your nice, lovely manoeuvre node set up, you want to warp very carefully around to it because you can pass it really quickly. You want to warp, make sure you don't miss it, because the moon's orbit will change if you miss it. So you want to get nice and close, just again, divide your burn time by 2, and then add that onto the time that you start burning. So my burn here is around 1 minute and 3 seconds, so I'm going to start burning 30 seconds before that node. There we go, just begin that burn, and just watch it drop. Forgot to get rid of a fare in there, so that's fine. As soon as you get even close to the end of your burn, you want to start throttling down, because the moon, when your apoapsis is really far away from Kerbin, it starts to move faster. So you want to get it as accurate as possible. Around, I don't want to say 5 meters per second on each side is okay. See, here I had to make a few adjustments even after I'd finished with the maneuver node, just to get that periapsis closer. That's okay if you have to do that as well, just be careful with it. Okay, once you've sorted out your periapsis, you want to time warp over to the moon. Just be careful though, because if you do miss the moon, you're going to go straight back to Kerbin, and there's really not much going back. So, time warp over towards the moon. You get to watch that beautiful cinematic coming up. Now, as soon as you get close to your periapsis on the moon's encounter, you want to make a maneuver node at the periapsis and drag it retrograde until that circle around the dotted line circle around the moon gets closer towards the end of an equatorial orbit. It doesn't matter about the inclination or anything, because you're not rendezvousing with anything, so that's fine. Just until you get that nice orbit, try and waste as less fuel as possible. As soon as you've sorted that maneuver node out, you can time warp over to it again. Divide that burn time by 2. So my burn time was about 11 seconds, so I start about 5 seconds before the node. Remember, above the moon, it's really easy to change your course of orbit, so be as accurate as you can getting to the bottom of that burn. Okay, once you've finished that orbit burn to get you into a nice stable orbit, you might want to think about adding another maneuver node, and just anywhere pointing your orbit. I put it in the dark side of the moon so that I could land on the light side. Makes things a lot easier. And you want to just drag it retrograde until you get a nice curved descent. Really not too steep. You want a nice curved descent. You should be landing on the other side of the moon, basically. Again, with halving your burn time, etc., I started about a second early because my burn time was about 3 seconds. So after that, you might want to begin thinking about time warping kind of over to your descent area, but there is a few things you need to think about. Firstly, the moon is really hard to judge how high you are, so think about doing everything quite early. Second, you will need to be pointing straight down, so you want to toggle your retrograde on your SAS, and you want to burn off all that speed. Your retrograde marker should go to the bottom of your nav ball. And as soon as you're heading straight down, you want to change to stability assist, which is the top one. Because if you begin going up again, your retrograde will flip and so will you. Just beginning some light burns now towards the surface. You can hold your auto retrograde and just slowly get that speed below 100. As soon as that does happen, you'll notice your rocket start to turn upright. As soon as it does flip upright, you want to make that change from retrograde to stability assist, which is the top one on the left. Just slowly burn in. See, the rocket's starting to flip up right now. You will lose all of your speed at this point. That's okay. There's the retrograde marker going into the bottom. You're flipped up right now. You will start gaining speed again because the moon does have some slight gravity. As you begin coming down, once you get closer to the surface, you want to really try and get that speed killed because the moon is not forgiving. If you hit it too fast, you'll flip. On Minmus and other planets, you want to aim for around 5 meters per second. On the moon, you want to aim for about 1 meters per second. I know it sounds tedious, but just use your left shift and your left control to move your throttle. Slowly, slowly, slowly descend. See how I'm moving slightly sideways here? As soon as I touch down, I do begin to flip. If this happens, just throttle up, throttle up, throttle up, throttle up. And flip towards the direction that you're moving to try and kill all that speed again. Exactly like that. I did flip over, but that's okay, you can do that without it. Your retrograde marker should go straight down again once you've killed all that speed if you've done it right. Might be a good idea to turn on RCS with R. And slowly killing all that speed, aiming for about 1 meters per second for your touchdown. And there you go, you've officially landed on the moon. Now what I like to do is right click on the capsule and click transfer crew right at the bottom. And then on your main pilot you can click EVA, which stands for extra vehicular activities. And you can turn on R with your jetpack. You can turn on jetpack with R. And it's the same controls as the rocket. Left shift control and backwards and forwards. If you move away from your rocket, I did fall over slightly there, that's fine, ignore that. If you move slightly away from your rocket, you can right click on your Kerbal and plant a flag, which you can name, and it's kind of like a waypoint, so if you ever come back, you can maybe visit. Also proves you've been to the moon, you know? Who doesn't love that? Right click, press plant flag, and you can name it, you can put some things on the plaque. I just put Mun Landing Site 4 because this is my 4th time landing on the Mun. And I put a very optimistic quote at the bottom. Gotta love that. Okay, as soon as you're back in your rocket, this is the hard part, getting back to Kerbin. You should have at least 900 meters per second of delta V. I had a little bit extra to play with, but 900 is bare minimum. So you want to take off, put your legs up, and essentially start flying horizontally straight away. If you've got some craters or things where you are, you might want to start flying higher first, but essentially just horizontal straight away. And then you can add a maneuver node yet again on your apoapsis. When you hit about 10,000, drag out the prograde marker until you get a nice equatorial orbit. Doesn't matter too much, just try and use as least amount of fuel possible. Once you've completed your burner in a nice stable orbit, you want to go to the back of the moon, add a maneuver node, and drag out that prograde marker until again that purple Kerbal apoapsis appears. You want to try and get it, just fiddle about with it, try and get it really close to Kerbal. You want to drag the retrograde and the center of the maneuver node to try and get that periapsis right over where you can see Kerbal, and then drag it retrograde to try and get it as far back as you can. Once your periapsis disappears, that's you hit your Kerbal periapsis really nice and low. You want to keep adjusting it until your periapsis disappears when you drag it back, and then drag it slightly forward. Should be at around 70,000. If it's lower, then that's okay. It did take me around 3 or 4 minutes to fiddle around with, but I did eventually get that apoapsis low on Kerbal. 70,000 is the minimum for re-entry, so you want to be 70,000 or below. As soon as you hit that maneuver node, you want to perform your burn. And once that's finished, you can think about time warping back over to Kerbal. Me, being an idiot, didn't actually get a re-entry height. I actually started about 193 for my periapsis, which is not good at all. So when I got sucked into Kerbal orbit, I just went straight past it. So I missed the orbit a couple of times, and I had to come straight back over to where the Mun was and edit it from there, because I tried to bring down my apoapsis, but I realised I didn't actually have enough fuel. So here's me missing Kerbal 3 times, and then having to readjust my orbit. Enjoy. I did eventually, however, figure out how to re-enter, and yeah, you really need a heat shield. I did try to re-enter 3 times without a heat shield earlier on, but yeah, as soon as I detach that stage, everything just blows up. So inflate your heat shield, or if it's non-inflatable, then just leave it, I guess. Detach the lower of your stages, and cruise down to splashdown. Deploy your parachutes and things, yep. I did actually detach or jettison this heat shield, but it was just very reluctant to leave. So I splashed down with a massive heat shield on. But that's fine. We can deal with that. I am telling you, the heat shield literally wouldn't leave. The capsule had kind of hooked itself underneath it, and yeah, so that worked. But anyway, here's splashdown after I'm assuming, your first Mun mission. Congratulations! I really hope you have enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe to me. Likes don't do anything, because I'm not going to ask for them, you know. But if there's anything else that you would like me to change about these videos, then please tell me in the comments. Goodbye!